Hey gang, welcome back. Today I just wanted to talk about the beat from CISSY Strut, which is something that a lot of people ask me to talk about regularly on my stream. A lot of people ask me to break it down. It's a drum beat that I think a lot of drummers find kind of mystifying to some degree when they're first approaching it. There's a lot of good videos on YouTube from Zigaboo Modeliste and from Stanton Moore, Johnny Vidacovich, guys like that. Guys who are well regarded in the New Orleans drummer community. But sometimes I think there are a few things about it that may be just innate for those guys that, outsiders don't quite understand or pick up on as quickly. I just wanted to go over a few points like that I've noticed in playing this beat over the years. One of the first things you'll notice from these videos, if you watch them, and I'll link them below, is that they'll mention this two hands on the hi-hat thing, which Zigaboo says it's not a necessity, but you'll notice that all the guys who are rooted in this style will do it with two hands on the hi-hat. So here's Zigaboo talking about that really quickly.
I found that could give the hi-hat more justice with playing with two hands on the hi-hat instead of one. Guys with a lot of serious chops would rather dedicate their cross-sticking, and would rather dedicate all your hi-hat licks with one hand.
Okay, so who is Zigaboo, if you don't know? Zigaboo Modeliste was the drummer for the Meters, which is a great funk band from the 70s up till the present. I believe they're still active. They're just an excellent example of like a New Orleans funky funk band. Here's an example of them playing live. So if you're not in the drummer community or you're not familiar with New Orleans music, you may not be aware of second line and the tradition of second line. You know, second line and New Orleans jazz are basically inseparable from each other over the years, and they've had profound influence on each other. Here's New Orleans educator Jonathan Bloom talking about kind of the history of how second line got started.
This was a port of embarkation for the military. You have all of these, especially African Americans, who had access to horns and instruments. And you begin to play these marches. And these marches, they decided they wanted to rag the melody. They didn't want to just play those melodies straight up and down like they were written or like they were doing in a Eurocentric type setting. We had these benevolent societies. You put that in the mix. And these benevolent societies were our early insurance companies. And they had certain days they celebrated, as they celebrated life. And especially when somebody passed, somebody notable in the community. They would play these mournful songs coming from the houses, going to the church, or going from the church to the graveyard. And these dirges were hymns, nothing but hymns, very slow and mournful. And then at a certain point, when they go through this ritual of cutting the body loose, where the bereaved family would go through the middle of the band and then go into bury the dead, the community would go off to the other way and they would go celebrate this life after death. And so that's when you heard this the music that we call second line kind of developed out of.
That's from a great documentary called Second Line that is here on YouTube, and I'll put the link down below. In the 20th century, mostly regardless of era, regardless of style, most young, especially impoverished or African-American musicians in New Orleans would have come up and cut their teeth playing this kind of stuff. Many of you are probably familiar with the basic idea of second line, but here's a great example from Rebirth Brass Band. As Jonathan Bloom was saying in the earlier clip, a lot of these come out of like more standardized ideas of marches, but they're just swinging them heavily. And that swing phrasing is like essential for Sissy Strut, for a lot of that style of groove, these like swingy funk grooves. And so like as a drummer, you really have to get good at being able to switch back and forth between kind of straight time, swung time, keep the ship sailing, as so to speak. Here's Stanton Moore quickly talking about that.
This is some real Karate Kid stuff. If you can make that feel good, wax on, wax off, or the new version of Karate Kid, jacket on, jacket off, if you can make this automatic, if you can make that phrasing automatic to where you're automatically phrasing in between straight and swing, well then when you try to do Sissy Strut, it's going to come a lot more naturally.
Now, the beat Stanton Moore is talking about is the Ratcliffe beat, and I didn't want to go too much into the Ratcliffe beat, same as the two hands on the hi-hat. Pretty much any other video you look at about Sissy Strut, they will explain these ideas. The Ratcliffe beat is basically just the beat that Zigaboo cites as his inspiration for the Sissy Strut beat, and where he kind of got the idea from. But there's an aspect to this that I think the guys who are so deeply steeped in this New Orleans style and sound, it's so innate to them. There's parts of this I think that they may not even be conscious of, and so when they talk about it, sometimes it's like an ephemeral thing, right? It's just having it be innate, the way the swing works. Listen to the way Johnny Vidacovich, who's a legendary New Orleans, swing and funk drummer. There's a lot of great videos with him you can find online talking about this style. And he's also hysterical. But here's him talking about like how his brain likes to think about playing this stuff.
For me, one beat is bump, one. So when I'm playing it on a clav, I'm not so concerned about every note that the bass player is playing and making sure ting, 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 boom, boom, boom. I'm thinking 1, 2, 3, baps, bop, bop, boom, boom, bop, boom, 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 bop, like that, I'm not just thinking of ting, 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 chickadoom, 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 I'm thinking I'm trying to encompass a larger concept of beat.
So it's almost the groove that we're talking about here with like Sissy Strut and with these kind of New Orleans funk band grooves, all these grooves that Zigaboo has put down that we've all like worshipped over the years as drummers. I think the guys from New Orleans maybe don't recognize how similar in vibe all of these beats are to that second line stuff. And maybe they do, maybe it's just they think it's obvious to them. But very few of them ever mention this in their educational stuff. From what I've seen. And I think maybe it's just because this is just innate in them from playing this stuff as kids. So I want to show you how if you shift the basic beat of Sissy Strut a little bit, it just turns into a basic second line, drum and bass kind of combination. Here's a great example of Johnny V, who we saw before, demonstrating that. You can see he starts in that basic Sissy Strut beat, and he switches it into the second line all on the snare, and then he shifts right back into that Sissy Strut beat. And really, it's the feel of them is exactly the same, and the essential accents, the essential placement, the essential swing phrasing, like we were talking about before, all that is the same. It's just shifted around the kit. The accents are placed on different things. The open hi-hat is in there as some of those accents. But it's really, like vibe-wise and groove-wise, I see those as inseparable. Like it's the same exact count. It's the same kind of a clave. And I think it's very circular, which a lot of that, all that second line drumming, it's all very circular, it's all heading to the one. It's all in this big round to the one. 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 It just has this, to me, I don't know if that's just me, but to me it has this rounded edge feel to it. And that's what's giving you that swing is some parts of it are extended out in time a little further than they should be, and some parts of it are a little tighter in time, or like dead on time more than they should be on these corners. So you're like cutting corners, you're looping around in a big circle. It just feels that way to me. And that's always helped me kind of internalize this style of music and this sound. That's really about it for this one. This is a quick one. I just wanted to start this little series of, little explainers for the grooves, the funk grooves that I get asked about a lot in the streams, like the most common ones. And I want to kind of come at them from this diametric angle. Like, I've seen a lot of people explain Sissy Strut. I've seen a lot of people explain these grooves. And I think there's some like elements to them that I often find are not mentioned, or maybe they're just assumed, as something you should know or something you'll get to if you practice enough. I think there's ways of like thinking about these beats that can completely change how they sound when you play them, and that's really the kind of ephemeral, Nate Smith, Al Jackson standard that as a great like funk drummer, you're stretching for, the whole time. You're always reaching for green onions or whatever, like you're always trying to play that and have your subdivision be as perfect as Al's is, things like that. I don't know if that's just me, but for me, this is the like essential work as a drummer that you need to do. It's not about the blazing chops. It's about really understanding really understanding how to manipulate time. I want to send a huge thank you to everyone who is a patron. Really, like I can't thank you guys enough. You make this feel like something that I could possibly do for some amount of income, and that I can't tell you how amazing that is. I appreciate it. If you like these, please go to the Patreon and support. The link's down below. My content will always be here for free. Just support however you'd like, if you like. If you could like and subscribe, I would hugely appreciate that, but no big deal. I'm not going to twist your arm. I just wanted to end it with this awesome poem from Johnny Vidacovich about the glory of and the joy of being a drummer. As always, be good to each other.
Ooh, it's fun playing the drum. Eating spaghetti, getting ready, going to the gig, feeling like a pig. Stomach's full of music's fuel that makes the bouncing balls of sound and time go touching all over your skin. Ooh, it's fun to play the drum. That's the way I feel when I